Well, hello there and welcome. I am S.R. Mowry and this is Mistwood Publishing, the best place to rediscover your wonder and to allow yourself to still be inspired. Hey, so I wanted to talk about one of the characters from Saga 2, and that is our main character, Narbad Strongheart. Some people in the past have said they don't like that name. I'm like, well, I'm not changing it. It is what it is. You know, Narbad is an orc, obviously. Those of you that have read Saga 1 know this. And so he's already different than any other main character from any book you've read outside of my writing, because orcs are not villains. They are this race of humanoid that was created by God to serve as protectors to the weak, right? So imagine if God were to create a humanoid race purely dedicated to protecting the innocent, to protecting the weak and the vulnerable from the evil in the world, from almost like demonic power. And so he probably would make that race to be kind of bigger, stronger, maybe look a little more fierce, be more innately capable of killing, evil. And so, the orcs look kind of like orcs from Skyrim. They don't look like orcs from Lord of the Rings. Although maybe some might kind of resemble like the Orokai maybe a little bit. Just like with humans, there's different, range. There's a different range of like attractiveness versus ugliness. But so Narbad is one of those. And he's meant to kind of sound like Sean Bean and, at the risk of maybe getting in trouble, he's meant to look like him a little bit, but orcish looking, right? And he's our main character of this story, and he is meant to be kind of like the Boy Scout, right? He is that exactly what an orc is supposed to be. He's a protector of the innocent. He is noble. He is kind of like Superman, where he's meant to be a hero that we can look up to. He's not meant to be so morally flawed that it's almost hard to root for him. I think one of the problems with a lot of fantasy today is that a lot of writers, well, they see the success of A Song of Ice and Fire, Game of Thrones, and they think, well, I have to do that. My characters have to be completely apathetic, nihilistic. There has to be like this suffocating, hopeless dread in all of my characters. And listen, like Martin does that great, and that is awesome, and I'm happy that people have that. But I feel like we've almost like maybe overcorrected with fantasy, where everything feels like it has to be almost like this overbearingly depressing and narcissistic, nihilistic kind of thing, where none of the characters are likable. You're not rooting for them. You're kind of just drawn in because of the political intrigue and the betrayal. I don't want that for Narbad. Narbad is a character that you're meant to look up to, that's meant to make you feel comfortable, that's meant to make you feel like he would save you. He would hold you in his arms if you needed it. He would be there for you regardless of who you are and what you've done. I mean, think about Saga 1 with Nerys. Narbad is meant to be the ideal. He's meant to be a hero we can look up to. And you're still going to get that in Saga 2. That is who Narbad is. He's supposed to be this almost Moses, if you've read Saga 1, he's supposed to be almost like this Moses, John the Baptist-like figure where he's paving the way for what's coming. And he's meant to be this purely heroic figure. And I think that in today's society, maybe more than ever, we need heroes that we can look up to, that we can feel comfortable around, that we feel safe around, you know? Like if Narbad was real, you would feel safe around him. He's better than me, he's better than you, he's better than all of us, and that's the point. He's supposed to be a rock. He's supposed to be a Superman-like figure. I mean, I think that one reason why that's so missing nowadays is that a lot of the writers of Superman and these comic book characters is that they all live in the same city in California or New York, and they kind of live in this bubble where they don't know what it's like to be me or you. They've lost touch with reality. And it's come to the point where new comic books and new fantasy is almost unreadable because the characters are, it's either a comedy like some sort of MCU thing with no stakes, and it's just there's nothing there, there's no meat to it, or it's like Game of Thrones where it's this heavy nihilism and there's no, we don't have heroes to root for anymore. Even the comic book characters that I love so much, give or take a few, nowadays are pretty much, they don't, if they even have a personality at all, it's, it's like this doesn't even, is not even the same person. Like Batman is unrecognizable. Because the people who are writing him nowadays have lost the point. They don't remember, they have such a profound lack of what the character is supposed to be, they're incapable of writing him. The current writer of Batman is it's complete garbage. It's unreadable. It's not Batman. If you know like lore, like Vandal Savage is the commissioner, and he's not Batman. He's some kind of soy boy, like he's not Vengeance. He's not beating up criminals that are hurting people. Batman loses his parents that night. He goes home and he vows to protect people from suffering what he suffered, right? At the hands of criminals. What does he do for most of Batman's history? He beats criminals to a pulp with his bare hands. He doesn't really do that anymore. It's not Batman. And Superman is unrecognizable as well. The only characters that have kind of maintained their identity are some of the lesser known ones because, like Green Lantern, because, I guess, I don't know. Maybe he's just gotten lucky. But that's not in Fostra, right? In Fostra, you still have heroes that feel real to you, to like a normal person who doesn't live in Los Angeles, right? It's not, Narbad is not a political character, and I'm not making a political statement. But what I am saying is that these writers that write most of our fiction today, they need to go outside and touch some grass, right? Me being a high school teacher in the middle of nowhere, Ohio, I'm very much so aware of what other people think. I'm a socialist teacher. I make a point to try to understand multiple perspectives. And so, you're going to get a character that feels real and likable and lovable. And I think that is priceless. That's priceless. And that's what I want to give people. I want to give a character that they can believe in again. I want to give them a character they can look up to and feel something about. Then he feels like a real person. But it's hard to do that. So he has to feel like a real person, but he also has to be good in a way that we can't be, right? So you're just not getting that in any other fiction. You're just not. You're not getting it in comic books. You're not getting it in fiction. I was looking in Barnes and Noble, and R.A. Salvatore wasn't even there. Like R.A. Salvatore novels weren't there. And to be honest with you, the stuff that I've read recently of his is not that great either. Everything that was in the very small fantasy section at Barnes & Noble was basically Game of Thrones, or this like weird like blue-haired kind of like tiefling D&D fantasy, which is more of like the MCU, where it's, why on earth would you waste your time reading that? There's no stakes, there's nothing of importance, it doesn't mean anything, right? We're missing stories like Lord of the Rings. We need figures like Aragorn. We need figures like Samwise Gamgee. We need Frodo. We need these characters that mean something, that feel like real people, yet also these larger-than-life characters that we can love and admire. And that's Narbad. That's our main character in this story. He is what the fantasy genre and the comic book industry and sci-fi, he's what they're missing, right? We need more Luke Skywalkers. We need more flawed, lovable, noble characters, and you will get that in Saga 2.